beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine.
Veterans, families and friends of veterans, and honored guests. My name is Tex Boggs. I'm the interim president at the University of Maine, Fort Kent, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this flag-raising ceremony and to introduce you to Leroy McKenzie. Mr. McKenzie is a United States Air Force veteran of Desert Storm. He is the American Legion District 17 Americanism Officer, the American Legion Post 133 Service Officer, and the University of Maine, Fort Kent Student Veterans Association Chapter President. Mr. McKenzie.
Definitely not as good as reading as Dr. Boggs is, but thank you, and I appreciate everybody here in attendance. And if you guys want to come this way, we definitely appreciate it. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Student Veterans Association flag-raising ceremony. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our guest speakers, students, community members, state and local leaders, and of course our veterans, who are both here and those here in spirit, for taking time out of your day to be outside here in the cold weather. As Dr. Boggs said, my name is Leroy McKenzie, and I am the president of the Student Veterans Association here at UMFK. I am truly honored to be speaking with all of you today on behalf of our chapter on this beautiful occasion. We're here today to honor our service members and to remember their sacrifices that they have made and the courage it takes to defend, honor, and serve the greatest country in the world. Arthur Ashe was quoted saying, "True heroism is remarkably sober and very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever the cost, but the urge to serve all others at whatever the cost." On this Veterans Day celebration, I would like to thank all of our veterans for not only answering the call to duty, but for also serving our great country, no matter what the cost. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce a combat medic, Army veteran, who is the Department of Maine American Legion State Commander, Matthew Jabot.
First of all, I'd really like to thank Leroy for putting this together, and I couldn't be happier than to be up here in Fort Kent with a my first seeing snow this year. So I'm happy to be here and happy to support everything that he's doing and all the things he's driving here, both within the Legion and within the Student Veterans of America. For those of you that don't know, the Legion and the Student Veterans of America have an ongoing national partnership, so we kind of feel as the American Legion it is our duty and responsibility to support our student veterans as they're transitioning and working through what their next career choice is after serving our country. So Leroy, thank you very much for putting this together. Horrible, ghastly, and ghoulish. These are some of the adjectives Medal of Honor recipient David Belevia used to describe the battlefields he saw in Iraq. But even so, the U.S. Army Staff Sergeant said it was also a place where he saw love. You see people doing these things for each other that they would never do, ever do, in any other circumstance. It's a sight to see. While Sergeant Belevi's valor is exceptional, even amongst the extraordinary, his mindset is common with the women and men who serve our great nation. His heroism is one of the millions of stories living in veterans. By virtue of your attendance today, it's clear that you hold our veterans in high esteem. But how many of their stories do we truly know? Like the story of Army Private First Class Monica Lynn Brown. PFC Brown was a combat medic assigned to 82nd Airborne when she was deploying to Quetta Province in Afghanistan. On April 25, 2007, a roadside bomb tore through her convoy, wounding 5 soldiers. After the explosion, 19-year-old Brown ran through insurgent fire and used her body to shield the wounded comrades while mortars fell less than 100 yards away. This is reading from her citation. That camaraderie, warrior ethos, and esprit de corps are all words we can use to describe what it means to be a veteran and to have served in our nation's military. In each other, we find community. We find it in American Legion posts and in unit Facebook groups. We find it in organizations like the SVA. We find it in the familiar decal in a rear window of a car or on a license plate that's passing by. We often see it in ourselves and in one another. When news got out that a Vietnam veteran had no living relatives to attend his funeral, the veteran community was there. Friends of Wayne Wilson had put out a call for people to come to his burial service in the Silverbrook Cemetery in Niles, Michigan, and expected only a handful of people to attend. They underestimated the power of the American Legion and the power of veterans. 3,000 people showed up to pay their respects. These are just a few stories from the millions out there that are to be told and to be heard. So before you leave here today, I have something to ask of you. Find someone here and ask them to tell you their story. Every single woman and man who has raised their right hand and pledged to give their life for this country, if needed, did so for a reason. Ask them why. These stories and memories of ours are powerful. They are one of our most powerful weapons in securing a future for those who will follow us. As veterans, we are acutely aware of the sacrifices made by our service members. We are equally aware of the cost of those sacrifices. We know the value and the lessons that our military service bestowed upon us. These are things we can't afford to lose to time. For the past 100 years, the American Legion has been dedicated to serving those who have served. The commitment to caring for America's veterans is one that transcends partisanship. It's a commitment that covers all races, all genders, and all faiths. The American Legion knows that service doesn't stop when the uniform comes off. As we honor our nation's living veterans today, it is fitting to bring to mind a piece of wisdom from Staff Sergeant Belevia, who said, quote, "All throughout our history, we have had people that have dissented, that have disagreed, and we found ways to put everything aside and focus on what's best for this nation, what's best for mission success," unquote. So to those of you who came before me, to those of you I had the privilege of serving with, and to those who have followed, thank you for your selfless service, as today we honor those who have worn our nation's uniform. I want to thank you all again for being here. God bless the great state of Maine, and God bless these United States.
Thank you for that. I'd like to welcome Fort Kent Town Manager Susie Parody.
Good afternoon and welcome. 11/11/1918 was the war to end all wars. It was universally recognized as a day of celebration for only those who served in that war. In 1954, Veterans Day was declared the day to honor all of our veterans who served America in war and those who defended democracy. Today, we are here to honor all of our veterans who selflessly served for our freedom. First and foremost, I want to begin by thanking all those among us today and those who have been a part of the U.S. military and serve our country. Our veterans, active duty service members, guardsmen, and reservists. Your service and sacrifices have and continue to keep our country safe and free. No matter which branch you served, whatever your job path, or how many years you served, the commitment to service in the military was and is a brave and selfless act. One that has no guarantees, or you may be assigned, or of where you may be assigned or deployed, and in some cases, if you would return home in one piece or at all. For this service, we can sleep peacefully at night. Military men and women risk much and accept those risks so others won't have to. While thousands of brave men and women have returned from war throughout time, there are still service members in harm's way around the world. I would ask you to please pause for a moment to think of those throughout the world currently standing watch for us. My father was a Vietnam War veteran. My grandfather served in World War II, and my brother served for 4 years in the Army out of high school. I am proud to have had members of my family who were so selfless. The war stories my dad shared were not pretty. The fear, the loneliness, the courage he and all that serve have to go through make you all heroes in my eyes. But my dad will always be my #1 hero. I believe if he were here today, he would sacrifice and give for his country again. Once you serve, you always serve. I would like to take this time to thank the Martin Klein American Legion Post 133 of Fort Kent for all you do for our citizens and the community. Thank you to all of Fort Kent and the surrounding community's veterans. You are some of the finest individuals who have and continue to serve for our freedom. This county has some of the best representation of organizations for our veterans and military. I thank you, Leroy McKenzie, for organizing this flag-raising ceremony. As a citizen of Fort Kent and as your town manager, you have my utmost respect. I am and will continue to be one of the strongest supporters of our veterans. Thank you for taking the time to remember our heroes. They never gave up on us, and we can't give up on them. Let us walk tomorrow still honoring them. God bless you all, bless our veterans, and bless the United States of America. I will leave you with a quote from Elmer Davis. This nation will remain the land of the free, only so long as it is the home of the brave. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. We appreciate you coming today. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to thank the Forest Hill veterans, Crosswinds veterans for coming out here today. So if everyone could turn to the parking lot area and give them a round of applause for taking their time as well. And I'd also like to thank the Sheriff's Department, Customs and Border Patrol, and all the veterans in attendance today for being here. I appreciate that. Next, if you can please welcome a 14-year Army veteran who was twice deployed to Iraq. He is currently the District 149 representative, John DeVoe.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Student Veterans Association of the University of Maine at Fort Kent for hosting the event, and to Leroy McKenzie for asking me to speak at such an important occasion. I especially would like to thank all of you that have taken the time to come to this event to honor our fallen men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice for our Constitution, our liberties, and our way of life. Men and women from across the great nation, the great state, and the greatest county were drafted to go to war. Many others volunteered to serve in the military for one reason or another. Too many of them didn't return. Many of you have personally been touched by war, family members, friends, school chums, yet we no longer teach our children the reasons why so many gave their lives for war. We tell them to say thank you to, make it more challenging, to the spouses of the children of our deceased veterans, but we're erasing the reasons that they were sent to become veterans. We need to teach our history, both good and bad, so that we don't repeat it. Some of you I may have served with, deployed to foreign countries with, maybe even shed a tear with, together at a memorial in Toledo, Iraq, all because of one day, May 6, 2006. On May 6, 2006, my unit Bravo Company, 3rd 172nd Mountain Infantry, lost 2 soldiers in combat, Staff Sergeant Dale Kelly and Staff Sergeant David Verka. Since our return in 2007, we've lost another 3 soldiers due to the demons of war. These men and many other men and women all start our service to the nation only after one crucial part in our journey. Each member of the military, no matter what the branch that we serve, all swear an oath. I, John DeVoe, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and to the orders of the officers appointed over me according to the regulation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. I took this oath in 1989. This is permanently etched in my being. Too many of our brothers and sisters have paid with the blood of their lives, living and dying to honor this oath. Merriam-Webster defines an oath as a solemn, usually formal calling upon God or a God to witness the truth of what one says or to witness that one sincerely intends to do what one says. In closing, I'd like to ask you this. There's a saying that 98% of our nation enjoy the freedoms of being United States citizens. 2% of those 2% of our nation will stand up and make sure that it remains free. What are you willing to do to remember those 2% that gave their lives for you? I'd like to thank you for listening to me, being invited, and may God bless the United States of America.
I'd like to acknowledge at this time Jared Roy, if you can please come forward with Melford Pelletier. Jared is here representing our Senator Troy Jackson, who could not hold out any longer. He had to take off, so if we can please welcome them both.
In true disclosure, Senator Jackson and I are related, and when he asked me to read this for him, I said, am I supposed to read this like a Moose Towner talks? So y'all listen now, because we're going to move forward. November 9, 2019. Student Veterans Association, University of Maine at Fort Kent. To the Student Veterans Association at University of Maine, Fort Kent. Thank you for putting on this flag-raising event to honor Maine's veterans. With Veterans Day fast approaching on Monday, it is a great time to reflect on the men and women who have served our country. Here in Maine, we have one of the highest numbers of veterans per capita. According to a recent report on the National Conference of State Legislatures, we are one of 6 states where veterans account for 10% of our population. This statistic means it is likely that each of you knows a veteran, and that veteran could be a friend, family member, or neighbor. In my role in the legislature, I am committed to doing what I can honor to our service men and women in Maine. Each one of them deserves our respect and recognition. I have enclosed with this letter a State of Maine flag that has been flown over the State House in Augusta. This is a small gesture of gratitude to our veterans for their service, and to you students for ensuring they are recognized as we approach Veterans Day on Monday. Thanks again for putting up this event. Sincerely, Troy Jackson, Senate District 1.
I have never met this person, and I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of the university and the Student Veterans Association, I'm looking for Shannon Campbell. Are you out there somewhere? Shannon Campbell is here today representing Senator Angus King's office, so thank you very much. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Kathy Finnemore, who is here from Senator Susan Collins' office. Thank you. Last but not least, I'd like to please welcome a Maine veteran who has served combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he is Congressman Golden.
It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I want to thank you for helping to pull this together and put this ceremony on so close to Veterans Day. Really appreciate it. I'm going to admit to you, when I left Lewiston earlier today, I could see that it was about 10 degrees colder here than it is there. I can't believe these young men over here in short sleeves looking pretty hard and strong, and the cold's not bugging them at all. But I will keep it short because I know people are cold. Very quickly, I'll read this to you. The flag of the United States of America. This is to certify that the accompanying flag was flown over the United States Capitol on October 11th, 2019. This flag was flown in honor of all veterans and student veterans. And I'm very pleased to present this to you. I'll share a quick story with you in a few words. Anytime I look at the flag, whether it's during the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance or wherever I may see one flying, but in particular during the Pledge of Allegiance and national anthem, I often think of this one memory that is seared into my brain from Iraq, where after about, I'd say, 3 or 4 days of pushing through several towns, probably about the size of Lewiston, actually, when I stop and think about it, along the Euphrates River, right near the Syrian border. We were securing those areas. There was a bridge in between 2 towns and a big wide wadi. And when we were coming through, heading back to our base, my battalion commander met our entire battalion in the center of this bridge next to a tracked vehicle with an American flag flying high up above it. And I remember the whole battalion kind of marching across that bridge after a hard 4 days of fighting. And I just never forget the feeling that I had looking up at that flag going by and feeling proud of what we just accomplished. And inevitably, it makes me think of the guys that I served with, and most importantly, those who I served with who didn't come home from Afghanistan and Iraq, but always those that did as well. So the flag, as you all know, has so much meaning for all of us, but it's significantly so for our veterans. And I think it's important that we always instill that sense of pride and respect for the flag and all of our citizens. And, these days, one thing that comes to mind for me often about the meaning of being a veteran, I went out to dinner not too long ago with General Jim Mattis, and I had asked him what he thought our biggest threat to the country was today, and he said that he thought it was ourselves and in the way that we sometimes treat one another, and seems to forget sometimes that we're all Americans. And when I was overseas serving, I can tell you I never once for a moment had any doubt about the level of trust and respect and love that I had for the people I served with. And it's just always know we're all Americans, we're in this together. And when you come home, you really realize how good we have it here. Even the little things, a hot shower, roof over the head, hot meals, being safe with your families. Those are the types of things that when I came home, I really realized just how good and how fortunate we are here in the United States of America. And certainly, that's why so many of us do stand up and volunteer to serve our country. And aren't we fortunate for that? So it's good to be thankful on Veterans Day. I'd always ask that we really think about those as well that we've lost and their families on this day. I know we do it on Memorial Day, but still very important at this time, in this time of year as well. So I'll present this flag to the group over here, and thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman Golden. We appreciate you being here. Next, I would like to have Michelle Roy, who is a Student Veterans Association member. If she can come forward, please. She has a reading for you.
Hi, this is a reading of the original proclamation celebrating Armistice Day. Whereas the 11th of November 1918 marked the cessation of the most destructive, sanguinary, and far-reaching war in human annals, and the resumption by the people of the United States of peaceful relations with other nations, which we hope may never again be served. And whereas it is fitting that the recurring anniversary of this date should be commemorated with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations, and whereas the legislations of the 27 of our states have already declared November 11th to be a legal holiday, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring, that the President of the United States is requested to issue a proclamation calling upon the officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on November 11th, and inviting the people of the United States to observe the day in schools and churches or other suitable places with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations with all other peoples. As a daughter of two veterans, thank you for being with us today.
At this time, I would like to have Dwayne and Melford, Dwayne Blanchet and Melford Pelletier, please head towards the flagpole. And I'd also like Daniel Rafford to please come forward. Daniel Rafford is a student here at the university. At this time, we're going to change out the flags, and we're going to have the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
At this time, I would like Congressman Golden, Commander Jabot, and Siri Mahonen, who is the Student Veterans Association Treasurer, to please come forward. There you go. In closing, we'd like to have Daniel Rafford, along with everybody here, sing America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine.
Before we end this ceremony, I want to again thank everybody for your time. I want to thank Lee and the Boy Scouts for being here. I'd like to thank all the veterans here, everybody here who has made this event such a success. Again, the veterans from Crosswinds and Benny the Bengal, who I gotta admit that I was selfish in asking you to be here because I wanted my daughter to see you. And of course, Mr. Pelletier, who has been a longtime inspiration for me. Dwayne Belanger, Paul, thank you for coming. I mean, the list goes on and on. Sean Gillen, you're out there somewhere. I can see you there. And like I said, everybody that has came here today to honor what we do and what we've done. Lastly, I would like to invite everybody to Crossings. They are hosting a meal for veterans, first responders, and I would like to have as many people attend as possible. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber